you're hungover and you only have pizza to cover up your genitals.
Yeah.
Like, that is something I can identify with.
There was like the big thing that EA said about how they're like more effectively working micropayments into their strategy. Like they're starting to become more and more pervasive.
They're gonna put them in everything now, basically.
Yeah.
You know, it's tacky. Because if they want to try out some free-to-play stuff, like Uncharted 3 multiplayer just went free-to-play. That's pretty cool. You know, that game's been out for a while. You know, they probably made their buck on it. And then, you know, if they want to have some, you know, the kids will buy the things in there. You know, they'll buy some points or some, you know, skill crap or whatever.
The ability to turn into spiders, which I think is the best thing.
Yeah, exactly. Stuff like that. But, you know, if that was a thing that was going on when, you know, when they just bought that game for $60, that's like a crappy, tacky thing. Like,
well, what's the line? Because I just finished up DMC and I bought some costume packs just to see. And when I bought them, they all came with like these little bonuses. One of them was a little radar that beeps when I'm getting close to secret doors and stuff like that, which is kind of cool for like a second playthrough or for going through and seeing stuff you missed. There was one that came with just 3 extra upgrade points, and you get upgrade points in that game like crazy, so it doesn't really put you that far ahead. And I felt kind of okay with those.
How much did you pay for that?
I think it was like $4 for the whole thing.
$4. That's not super terrible. That's like a hamburger.
Yeah.
Like a shitty hamburger.
I really wish that, you know, at the same time, I really wish that it had been something that I unlocked by beating the game. Oh, you beat the game, and now, because you beat it through, like gone all the way through it once, we're gonna give you this radar, so that'll help you find the things that you missed. But because I didn't know I was getting it, I kind of felt like it was a nice surprise.
Yeah, I could see that, because a lot of games do have features like that built into the game already, like in the skill tree or something, which is always appreciated, I think. Tomb Raider, for instance, had like a skill you can unlock where you can find, it'll show all the locations of the optional tombs on your map.
Okay.
Which is appreciated.
Now, what if you had to pay like $1.95 for that?
I wouldn't.
Right.
But I wouldn't be upset if they gave me the option. But it does seem cheap in comparison to a game that includes it already, because then it's like, where do you stop?
I feel like there are a few kinds of people when it comes to like these sort of DLC or microtransaction things. There are the people who are just never going to buy them. And then there are the people who will buy them when they're in a pack. And then there are the people who buy like everything as it comes out. Like think about how much stuff Saints Row 3 came out with. Like there was like a period of time when like every Thursday something new was being added to Saints Row 3 and it was like $2.
I think that kind of hurt the game.
It kind of did, because it made people, I think, look at it 4 weeks later and go, how long have you been sitting on this stuff?
Especially compared to Saints Row 2.
Yeah.
Because Saints Row 2 had like so much stuff in it, and you know, Saints Row 3, they were like, hey, remember that game you played 3 months ago? Guess what? Now you can have a shark gun in it. You just got to give us $2. And I'm like, how about I wait another bunch of months, and then I just buy the game again and for like less, and then you give me all that included with it.
Well, because when it's as much as Sleeping Dogs or Saints Row 3, you tend to look at it and go like, you don't hear, oh, remember that game you finished 3 months ago? Here's a cool shark gun. You think, remember that game you finished 3 months ago? We're done. We finished it finally.
Yeah, right?
We finally got it done. Sorry, guys. Sorry it took an extra 90 days and $24. I think the only thing, like, that stuff doesn't really bother me, because I'm not somebody who's like, I don't need the shark gun to play Saints Row 3. It's kind of funny, but I don't need it. I don't need the Adam Jensen costume to play and enjoy Sleeping Dogs. I think it's the stuff that would give players advantages, especially giving players advantages over other players.
Yeah.
That's where I kind of get weirded out.
You played Dead Space. What was the story with the micropayments?
So in Dead Space 3, there were basically 2 areas of the game where you could purchase resource upgrades. It was in the weapon crafting system, which is used based on the resources that you naturally collect in the game, but you can also buy additional resources to craft whatever weapons you want. I don't think there's an option to buy just pre-made weapons, but I could be wrong. And then there's also, you can buy like suit upgrades and stuff. So I think part of the reason that people were mad about that is for two reasons. One is that the series didn't have microtransactions before, and the other one is that this is like, I feel like it's more easily forgiven in like mobile games and stuff that have a ton of replay value and less in immersive experiences like Dead Space. But Dead Space 3 I also felt had a lot more replay value than the other games of the franchise. So it sort of felt like it balanced out a little bit.
That's interesting that you mentioned that, because I do feel like any game that has like a straight narrative like that, any kind of AAA game where you're telling a story and you're trying to fight your way through it, the ability to like buy something to fight your way through it faster does feel a little dirtier than something like a town building game or something you would play on a mobile, where it's like, I'm probably going to be playing this for such a long time. Something like a Tiny Tower where you're building a world and you can just like add little things to it.
And it does make the game feel a little bit more arcadey also, which people probably weren't comfortable with.
Anything with a campaign that like a strong kind of single player story, I think it really rubs me the wrong way when there's like microtransactions involved. Like free to play is almost exclusively multiplayer, I believe. You know, like
it's like a choose your own adventure where you have to pay 30 cents to add a page.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I got I bought, or I guess was it Ghost Trick on iOS? Has your dog in it? Yeah, I mean,
his name is Missile.
I think I downloaded that. I think it's free for the first chapter.
Yeah.
And then you finish the first chapter and you're hooked. And it's like, hey, do you want to buy additional chapters? They're like, you know, $2 each. Yeah. Or do you want to buy all of the chapters? It's like $10. And I'm like, $10 for what was a DS game is not bad.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
And that happens so much on mobile, and I think that's the only way in such a crowded and cluttered mobile marketplace for a lot of these people to like get their game noticed, because nobody wants to pay more than 99 cents for anything on the App Store. Like, that's just this weird mental barrier, you know? But people will take anything for free and expect micropayments later. Like, they're totally fine with it. And it's like a complete difference in player psychology.
That's the thing EA doesn't get, too, because they're like, yeah, a lot of our fans are coming from mobile as an environment, and they're totally used to micropayments. And that's why when they buy a $60 console game like Dead Space 3, it won't weird them out when we ask for more money for things in the game.
Yeah. And well, a lot of people buy it. Like, it was considered an incredibly successful experiment for them.
Was the game successful, or was the experiment in microtransactions successful?
I think both, but I'm specifically referencing the experiment in microtransactions.
What I think it's crappy because there's so many other companies that really just kind of give back to the player, and it's like they kind of build loyalty. Nobody likes EA. I mean, I'm just going to say that.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope, you know, I'm not destroying any sponsorships or anything.
At
but
most, you are ambivalent towards them. Nobody likes them.
Nobody's like, boy, I sure love that company that wants my money. And then you look at somebody like, you look at Bethesda, and they've got Skyrim, and you know that came out 2 years ago, and they have a huge modding community. And they're like, you know what, you guys make your own DLC, and you share it amongst yourself, you know? And I think, can't people like sell stuff on there now, like the Steam Workshop or something?
I think you can, yeah.
I think the real difference here is that in the case of like Dead Space 3 and EA wanting microtransactions, is they're like, hey, give us your money. We have a thing, give us your money. Whereas, you know, Blizzard, as much as some people might like to, you know, point fingers at them and say that they're evil, you know, they're like, hey, if you spend 60 hours a week playing Diablo and you've got some cool weapons and you want to sell them for real money, then guess what? You have a legitimate way of doing that. We take a cut, but hey, it's right there. You know, like nobody, there is a way people can access that, and there's no like...
That is really cool that they at least give players who play a lot the option to like make money off of their time spent.
Well, I think here's the reason why all the sort of microtransaction stuff I think gets to me, that I just realized as we're talking about this. I don't want my paycheck in the magical fantasy world where I'm getting away from my life. But I don't want to get in. I don't want to be dude in space building a gun and have to insert money into a slot in the gun machine.
But you don't have to.
It drives me nuts.
You don't have to, though. That's the thing. It's still completely optional.
The fact that the menu even pops up, the fact that I'm even like, boy, I gotta save the universe. Oh, $4? Yeah, that'll certainly help my friends from being eaten by the terrible space aliens.
I feel like if you're willing to throw down money to like do something in a game that you would have done otherwise, you probably shouldn't be playing games, because clearly you don't like the gaming experience. You just like winning.
Yeah. And I guess it is. It's two different players, right?
Yeah.
And I do kind of understand the argument that a lot of people have now, which is like, hey, I'm an adult, or maybe I'm not an adult, but I just have a well-balanced life, and I do a lot of things, and I like playing this game, but I've hit this wall, and it's just not worth it to me to spend 3 hours on this wall. I'll spend $2 on this
Yeah.
wall and get to the next cool part of this game.
Yeah, and the problem arises when the developers create something that's like intentionally difficult to get past or complete without purchasing microtransactions.
Did you guys try that Final Fantasy All
No.
the Bravest for the iPhone?
I heard about it.
Did you try it?
I heard
have
about it.
Try what?
Final Fantasy All the Bravest is a game where if you die in battle, you can pay $1 to come back to life and beat the battle. And all of the battles are specifically unbalanced, so you will lose.
And that's shitty.
And then
That's really shitty.
and then every little extra class, like you can have real Final Fantasy characters in your party, like cool characters. Like you could have Cloud in your party. He costs $1, and you don't know that you're getting Cloud. You pray at an altar where you give it $1, and it gives you a random Final Fantasy, and you're supposed to collect them like trading cards.
That's just like the Zynga model, pretty much. Like it's funny we don't even like think about Zynga this stuff anymore because I feel like they're hardly relevant, but they like set the bar for like evilness when it comes to microtransactions. And I feel like EA gets a bad rap for a lot of reasons, but also specifically the way they talk about players, like referring to them as like consumers. Obviously, it's business people, you know, and they're a company above all else, and like their bottom line is going to be what's important. But they talk about consumers as though we literally are just like walking money bags, you know. I feel like some good PR could probably go a long way for them.
Well, what do we think is like the balance of how much we would pay for a console game and how much we would pay for microtransactions? Like, let's say the next gen comes out and games are set at X number of dollars, but you know going in that you're probably going to spend like $10 in micropayments. What would you have to spend on a game to do that?
$30.
$30?
$30, and they'll more than make their money back from the people who are really into it.
Yeah. I'd say 30 to 40.
You know?
Yeah.
Be like, hey, the game's $30, but guess what? There's another $30 of DLC right in there, and there's also micropayments. But you could buy you'll get the bulk of the experience for, $30.
I could be okay with that.
Even if they made it 50.
Couldn't do 50.
The thing that's
50's too close.
The thing that's bad news bears right here is the fact that we are seeing this kind of changing in pricing, or not pricing, but in the way that people pay for games. It's not like microtransactions are like little tiny subscriptions. You know, they're like they're buying samples, they're trial size, they're fun size. You know, versus a subscription model or just like a straight up retail model. And if we're doing this kind of hybrid of retail model and free to play with microtransactions, then it needs to be reflected in the price tag.
Yes.
You know, if you're experimenting with everything else in terms of how money and video games work together, then shit.
If you really believe that your microtransactions add value, then you need to show me that you believe that. You need to take the gamble, right? Like you need to be like, okay, well we think you're gonna love building space guns so much that we're gonna take $20 off the retail price of this game. Because we know that you're gonna spend $20 at least on building guns and crafting weapons. Like I wanna see them take that gamble and roll those dice if they're gonna do it. And then you go into a store and it's like some games are $60 and some games are 30, and when you look at it, you're like, oh, that one. Well, here we go.
Yeah.
Like I would do that. But right now it just seems like they're like, well, let's see if we can keep things the same, but then also maybe you'll do this.
I think it's just when you're just really transparent about how goddamn greedy you are and how much you're interested in money versus actually providing a great service.
Yeah.
I think that the people you're providing a service to are going to get sort of hip to it.
Yeah.
And you look at Valve. I don't think Valve has ever done anything that people got really mad at them for. They haven't always done perfect things, but the most
Valve doesn't people don't get mad at Valve for things they do. People get mad at Valve for things that they don't finish.
Yeah, there you go.
That's why you get mad at Valve.
Yeah, if anything, they're not greedy enough because everyone is like, shut up and take my money. Give me Half-Life 3.
Yeah,
give
me
me your Steam box.
Half-Life 3, $60 plus $30 required micropayments. I would do it right now.
5 million copies sold.
Give me Half-Life 3, you sons of bitches.
You can pay 99 cents for every word that Gordon Freeman says.
It's like Soldier.
Yeah.
It's like Soldier with Kurt Russell.